All right, so here I got the clutch cover and it's about to come off, and I'm gonna be doing the shim mod. So with the shim mod, you have all these different, they basically look like, little spacers, washers, whatever you wanna call them. But each one has a different thickness. Now you can find these on eBay, Amazon, Facebook groups, whatever. But so I got two 1mm shims, 1/2 millimeter, and then 0.2, quarter, whatever. All right, so what I'm gonna do today is a 1.5 or maybe a 1.2. I'm still up in the air about it. For today, let's say I'm gonna go with the 1.2. So I'm gonna be adding this and this shim, and then I'll have a 1.5 left over that maybe later on I'll look into if I don't feel like this gives me enough of that low end grunt that I'm looking for. So I've already taken the plastics off, and then this bar here, your foot peg, that needs to come off. That's two 14mm bolts, and then I just loosened the the 13mm over here just to let me get access to it. And then it's held on by 8mm bolts here. I think there's like 8 or 9 of them all the way around, and then you just want to be careful with those because they are prone to snapping, so don't be too reckless with them. And then once all that's off, this is ready to slide off now, and you'll just have to move your foot brake out of the way to allow access. So I'm gonna take this off now. All right, clutch cover. So apparently I've got a little bit of dirt in here. So that was probably from my ride at Cape Fear this past weekend. And definitely got some mud in there, so I need to address that. So while I'm doing this shim kit, looks like I'll be doing a little bit of cleaning. All right, now your primary is held on by this cage, so I need to take this cage off before I can access this to get to where the shim goes. So looking here, looks like I got some more 8mm bolts to All right, so if you got an older model of King Quad, you'll notice that the cage setup on the 2018 is different, and I'm not sure if it's the same for the 1920. I would imagine it's probably still the same, 18 and up. But so I'm not sure what year it actually changed, but it used to be to where the cage just covered the primary here. Now the cage covers the primary and secondary. It's one big piece now versus just the 3 bolts that used to hold on the old style. So got a couple more bolts to get out here. All right, so now the bolts are out, so now it's just a matter of getting the cage off. So you gotta pull the brake lever down, and then boom, slides right off. This thing is pretty dirty. I have 100 miles on this thing, and I haven't really ridden it hard except maybe one time at an ATV park. So it doesn't take much to get these dirty. So pretty regularly you wanna service your clutches and make sure that everything's cleaned up, because you will, whether you feel it all the time or not, you will experience some slippage and you're gonna be losing power, and it's just not good on the machine to roll around in all that carbon and dust and dirt and grime. So I'm gonna get to it. Next step is to remove this 17mm bolt right here, which it should be 17, that's what it is on the older models. All right, so it's still a 17. So what you need to do is, if you have an impact gun, use the impact gun, because this won't spin when you're trying to torque it off. If you don't have an impact gun, then go ahead and get your 17mm, and then if you have a heavy duty screwdriver or a breaker bar or pry bar. That's what I was looking for. You just wedge it up in here, catch a gear, and then you're just gonna go ahead and loosen it off. So I'm gonna need a little bit more torque on my. All right, so when the 17 millimeter comes out, this collar comes out with it. You have a shallow end. It's got a little, I guess a short area and then a groove. And then you've got a deep end, it's deeper with a groove. And you wanna put it back in the same way it came out. So the easy way is that the collar covers the bolt head versus the bolt head sticking out. Like, it doesn't make any sense. So yeah, just put it back the way it comes. All right, so after that, before you go ahead and slide this primary off, you take 2 of your 8 millimeter bolts that came from your clutch housing cover, and there's 2 8 millimeter holes right here. What you'll do is you'll put these screws in here, and as you tighten them, it will expand the clutches and allow the belt to get looser in order for everything to slide off nice and easy. As you do it, you see the belt flexing and getting looser as I'm tightening these. So. See if that's loose. All right, now when you remove this, you're gonna kind of push in and then pull it straight off and push your brake pedal down as you do it. All right, so that is your primary clutch. And then where the shim mod goes, so if you have the shim mod, sometimes this collar will pull off as you pull your primary out, other times it'll stay on. So if it stays on, you pull it off, and then your shims will go on first onto here, and then you'll put your collar back on. It's got grooves, so it needs to line up, and then it'll slide back on as such. Now, when you pull this off, so obviously I'm gonna clean everything up. You just wanna make sure that this area is clean, nothing is crazy corroded or anything like that, scuffed up, glossed over, or have any glazing. If it's got some glazing, then just get a little Scotch-Brite pad and just go over it nice and easy. You can use brake cleaner on this stuff. It's not recommended to use brake cleaner on the rollers, so I wouldn't use that. But I mean, as far as all the other metal parts, yeah, brake cleaner works great. And then just put a dab of grease in here. You don't want to get grease all over the collar itself, but you want to have a little bit inside here to just make sure everything's nice and lubed up. All right, just set that off to the side. All right, then your belt will come off. And you want to make sure your belt goes back on the same way it came off. Sometimes they have arrows, sometimes they don't. And just inspect it for any kind of crazy wear or anything like that. So yeah, here's the arrows on this one. So the arrows go this way. So when you put it on, it wants to go that way. Don't put it on backwards. All right, so my belt looks to be pretty good. Like I said, I don't even have 100 miles on this machine yet, so yeah. It is dirty as crap though, so I'm gonna be going in here and doing some pretty hefty cleaning. I'm not gonna bore you guys with that. So yeah, here's your primary. So when you pull this off, that's your rollers. Surprisingly, in here isn't too bad. My rollers, you know, they're not sitting in a bunch of carbon or anything like that. I don't know if you can see it. I don't want to tip it over, but they don't look too bad. But still, I'm gonna go ahead and clean everything. With these, I'm gonna clean them in soap and water, and then make sure they're all dry, of course, and then the actual housing itself, I'm gonna hit with some brake cleaner. All right, so got everything cleaned up. Now it's time to put it all back together. Now, since I was cleaning it up, I decided I am gonna go with a 1.2 millimeter shim. I'm not gonna do the 1.5 for now. If I change my mind later on, I can go ahead and just clean it up again and make adjustments. I'm gonna get some 18 gram rollers anyway, so I'll be back in here before too long. So get my 0.2 and then one of my 1 millimeters. Nothing I've seen says anything about the order that they should go on. I'm gonna put the thicker one on first. I don't know, that just seems to make sense to me. So go ahead and slide the 1.2 millimeters worth of shims in there. And now I need to find out where I put my collar. All right, so the 1.2 millimeter shim is in. I'm gonna take my collar here, go ahead and line that up with the grooves. Slides right on. All right, now if you get any excess grease, just go ahead and wipe that off. You don't want that getting on your belt and causing things to glaze over. All right, so now get my primary here. Cleaned it all up the best I could. So all this in here was black and disgusting. Now everything's white, clean as it should be. There's these little plastic guide clips. They only go one way. Slap those on. All right. I'm gonna go ahead and put this on here, and you want to make sure that the teeth that are on here come all the way through this side. So you want to push it on enough to where they're showing. Press the brake pedal down, line it all up. All right, once it's on there, teeth are showing, line your collar and your bolt back up. Go ahead and set that in there. I don't know if you guys can see it in the video, these gnats are like ridiculous right now. Alright, try to get this snugged up for now until I can tighten it down more in a second. Slip the belt on. Now I need to take these two 8mm bolts back out to tighten this back up. cage needs to go back on.
I'll go with you. I'm freaking good.
All right, once those are all tightened up, then I'm gonna go ahead and crank this back down. Remember, I didn't go too full force on it. All right, I don't have a torque gun, so it's gonna be a couple ugga-duggas, and that's gonna be it. All right, I'm gonna start it up and see what happens. If I can find my key. Make sure it's in neutral. Everything seems to be in order here. All right. So now I'm gonna put my cover back on and yeah, get to it. So I didn't put all the cage bolts in just because I wanted to make sure it was all good before I went ahead and buttoned this thing completely up. Excuse my daughter, she's crazy. All right, cover time. Make sure if your gasket's coming off, make sure it's seated on there pretty well, otherwise it will leak. And then when you tighten this down, hand tighten only, because these, I guess inserts or whatever, are prone to snapping, and then you're gonna have to hunt down some inserts for this thing, which can suck sometimes. As you guys know, trying to find parts for ATVs locally is usually a pain in the ass, so you gotta order it either through the dealer or online, Rocky Mountain ATV, whatever. So yeah. All right. Brake lever back down. Move this brake line out of the way. Put your cover, line it up. All right. I'm just gonna go around and get a couple in just to start it, so I don't have to hold on to it the whole time. Now I know when most dudes here hand tighten, they hand tighten it and then they give it that last extra little oomph to freaking make sure it's tight. Do not do that with these. Hand tighten, hand tighten, hand tighten. That's it. I'm gonna use the ratchet just to make sure that they are snug, but I'm not gonna be putting a lot of pressure on these at all because I do not want these to snap and then have an issue with this leak in and then have to deal with slipping while I'm out on the trail, because that's never good. It's a pain in the ass, and then you just look like a jackass. So it's tight, and that's it. Tight, that's it. I'm not cranking on this. That's it for that, and then you're just gonna put your foot peg back on, plastics, and that's a wrap. All right, so shim mod's all done. Everything's back together. Sounds good. She feels good. Rode around the yard a little bit. A lot more torque. You notice it especially in a low gear. It's definitely in low. Got a lot more balls.